Welcome to everyone to Sauce Time Gaming. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video once again. So, the Type 11 is being in the conversations of being the new Bren. And although the Bren's nerf in no way kicked it out of the meta, there is the fact that currently the only weapon that has this infinite range barrel is the Type 11. So, we're going to be covering the Type 11 today in episode 6 of our Recoil breakdown series. And as always, timestamps have been diligently placed throughout the video for your efficient time management. So let's get right into it. If you've checked out any of the previous videos in the series, you know how the testing goes, right? So I'm gonna let those clips run, and throughout each attachment, the main observation was really the similarity that the Type 11 has with the AS44, in which their initial recoil kick makes it a little bit too awkward for long-range engagements because that initial kick sort of throws you off, and if the target is smaller, it just gets harder, right? So in the case of the AS44, it did receive buffs regarding that initial kick, which is great, but the Type 11 really didn't see any buff in that department. So my main focus here was finding the best build that could mitigate that initial kick, and we were able to find 3 potential builds that you can take advantage of, and we're going to go ahead and cover those right now. So for every build, we're pretty much going to be using the same 2 attachments for the muzzle and the barrel. Because we have the Sakura 487mm shrouded barrel, which gives us that sort of infinite damage range, we're going to be running this. This is the only barrel that gives you recoil sort of control in any case. So this is the one you have to go for long range engagements anyway. And we're going to be running the Mercury silencer because the only downside is the damage range, which is obviously compensated by the broken barrel attachment. Right now, for the easiest to use recoil build, we're going to be running the M1941 hand stop. The difference between this one and the Carver foregrip is that the Carver foregrip didn't smoothen the pattern itself. It just kind of reduced it maybe a little, but it caused a lot of sort of side to side wobble as you had that final pattern. So the M1941 hand stop is going to be throughout most of these builds the best one. We're going to be running the 5.6mm 45 round mag. This one gives you the best recoil control. It affects your bullet velocity, but we're looking for sort of the easiest build right now. Now, the stippled grip tape is what you're going to run to mitigate some of that initial fire and recoil, which is, again, that initial kick that the weapon has. The sight is something that's entirely up to you. But you're going to be running the Sakura Precision because this is, again, going to continue to smoothen out that recoil pattern. The problem here is because you're running the 5.6mm rounds, the way that the recoil control stats work here is that when an attachment controls your recoil, it tends to kick the entire pattern sort of side to side. So instead of extending it, let's say 20 meters, it'll shrink it down to 18 meters, but it'll kick your weapon side to side to achieve that. So it's a little bit weird, but with the Sakura Precision, you're going to be able to smoothen out that kick to get the best recoil pattern with this magazine. And this is pretty much the skeletal build for the best or the easiest recoil pattern for that. Now you can build everything else as you would like, maybe a 2.5x. I would recommend to run the lengthened here because it compensates the lack of bullet velocity because of this magazine type. And then for the perk 1 and perk 2 is really whatever you want. Whatever you want except brace, because brace is really not working as intended right now. So I wouldn't recommend you use this. You can test everything out that isn't brace. So it's entirely up to you. I would probably run, depending on the class I'm running, maybe you could run Fleet to change your amped perk and maybe spice things up a little bit, but entirely up to you. Maybe a Driller here to get a little more penetration, which also compensate the magazine, and the fully loaded to get maximum ammunition. Next, we're going to talk about the conditional recoil setup. And of course, you know the bipod is going to come out to play. Most of the setup is similar. We have the Mercury silencer, the Sakura 487mm shrouded barrel, the stippled grip tape to mitigate that initial kick. And then we're going to be using the bipod and the Warubachi weighted stock because both of these have the benefit of recoil control when you are mounted, crouched, or prone. And so these 2 are going to stack up together, and you're going to get, of course, an additional sustained fire recoil control with this one. And this is going to pretty much give you the best patterns, which you're going to see right here. and you'll be able to, depending on the magazine type you choose, get the various recoil patterns that you're seeing on the screen. So you can go with whatever you want to test out. The recoil patterns are going to differ, of course, based on each magazine. For this one, again, it's really up to you, so I can't choose anything for you. And I don't know, maybe a couple of ideas is you can run the 90 round drum, run FMJ maybe, and then driller to get maximum penetration, and run this with combat scout, or maybe run this with incendiary rounds, which you're not missing out on damage range, and maybe use the 8mm Clouser 30 round, which gives you bullet velocity that compensates the lack of bullet velocity on the incendiary rounds. And maybe keep driller here, or run fleet or pressure, whatever the case may be. You can really spice this up in all these categories here, which makes this build specifically very fun. Of course, just bear in mind that it's a conditional recoil, so you're gonna have to, mount, crouch, or prone to get the best recoil control. But it's not the end of the world. You can maybe use this one to get a good recoil control even while you're standing. So it's really up to you, but this build right here I think is very fun. Although conditional, you can have a lot of different variety here with these missing attachments. And then finally, last but not least, the best build here. This is a little bit more of a skill gap build because, again, let's talk about the skeleton. We have the Mercury Silencer, the Sakura 487mm shrouded barrel, the M1941 hand stop, stipple grip tape, but here we're going to be running the Shiraishi custom stock, and this is going to help you with that initial fire and recoil once again, because you want to run the 90 round drums here. This is going to give you maximum ammo capacity. What happens here, and the reason why I wouldn't recommend the 45 round, is because, as I explained with the recoil control, if you place these 45 round mags, you're going to get a lot of that kick from side to side. If you run the 90 round drums and you run these two attachments for initial recoil control, you're going to be getting a smoother pattern that's really going to just help you have consistency, even if it's at a longer range, because you're not going to get that initial kick, and it's not going to have you readjust if the target is smaller, right? Because again, we're going to use this for longer range engagement. So this is definitely the go-to setup, and you can see from the clip right here what the recoil pattern looks like. It is definitely the best setup you can run for the Type 11 currently, and then you can spice things up here. Because you don't get the benefit of the bullet velocity of this option here, I would recommend maybe run lengthened here to get the maximum bullet velocity. You can maybe run driller to get some bullet penetration because you're not getting it from the magazine itself. And then again, the sight is completely up to you, which is completely up to you in any build. And then you can run maybe fully loaded here on perk 2. But this is definitely the best build for maximum ammunition capacity. And there you have it, the 3 best builds for the Type 11. And that is going to conclude episode 6 of the Recoil Breakdown series. Thank you so much if you did reach this point of the video. If you did enjoy it, click on the like button down below. Remember, if you want to watch a weapon broken down before all the others, let me know in the comment section down below, and we're going to get on top of that weapon before all the others. Although ultimately we are going to be breaking down every single weapon that requires a recoil breakdown. Now, if you still miss the Bren and you still want to enjoy the Bren, you can click on the video at the end here. I'm going to leave the link to the recoil breakdown episode for that, so you can get the best recoil setup for the Bren. Now, in the comment section down below of that video, I did specify sort of the updates to the attachments based on the recoil updates that happened not too long ago. So check that out if you are interested in it. Thank you so much once again for clicking on today's video. I hope you do enjoy the Recoil Breakdown series. I will leave it linked up here if you do want to check it out. More videos are to come, so stick around. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and throughout that day, I hope you always remember Sauce Time Gaming.